I asked him how he felt about her being found, and his comment is that she...
And I know there was some colorful language. Say exactly what he said.
The bitch probably had it coming.
She texted him good night at 4 in the morning. I love you. Talk tomorrow. She put her phone down, pulled a blanket over herself, and closed her eyes. She never opened them again. When her friend walked into that living room 9 hours later, the couch was empty. The phone was still there. The purse, the shoes, the keys, her entire life, just sitting there, untouched. Except for one thing, a bloodstain, small, dark, pressed into the pillow exactly where her head had been. No broken window, no forced door, no scream loud enough to wake a single person sleeping just feet away. No sign that anything had happened at all, except that Brianna Denison, 19 years old, was gone. And here is the detail that will stay with you long after this video ends. The man who took her had done it before. 3 times, same neighborhood, same type of victim, same method, same ritual, and every single time, he walked away. Because he wasn't just a predator, he was a student. He had been studying that campus, mapping those streets, practicing, refining every attack, until the night he decided he was ready to stop leaving survivors. That night was January 20th, 2008, and Brianna Denison had no idea she was the final exam. Before we go any further, this case contains explicit details of abduction, sexual violence, and murder. If you need to step away, this is your moment. For everyone staying, hit subscribe, drop a like, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. This is the North American crime case, and tonight we go all the way in. To understand what happened to Brianna, you have to first understand the city she came home to. January 2008, Reno, Nevada. Population just over 200,000. They called it the biggest little city in the world. Neon casino signs cutting against snow-capped mountains, the Truckee River running cold through the center of downtown, and 18,000 University of Nevada students filling the streets on any given weekend. It was Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. The tail end of winter break. Students were trickling back to campus, squeezing every last hour out of the break before spring semester began. Off-campus rentals were crowded with friends crashing on couches, making casino runs, staying out until 4 a.m. because they could, because they were young, because Reno, in January, felt safe. But somewhere in that city, in those same streets, those same parking lots, those same shadows, a man had been operating for 3 months. 3 attacks. 3 victims. Same DNA. Nobody caught. The university community didn't fully know how close the danger was. And on January 19, 2008, Brianna Denison, 19, home from Santa Barbara City College on winter break, went to a concert with friends and headed to a late-night spot before finally crashing at one of their houses in the early morning hours of January 20th. She was home. She was with her people. She had no reason to be afraid. Brianna Zunino Denison was born March 29, 1988, in Reno, Nevada. She grew up in a close, loving family. Her mother, Bridget Zunino Denison, would later describe Brianna as her best friend. She had a younger brother, Brighton, who she was fiercely protective of. She graduated from Reno High School in June 2006, an honor student, a cheerleader, the kind of girl everyone genuinely liked. Not the surface kind of liked, the real kind, where people remembered exactly how she made them feel years later. She enrolled at Santa Barbara City College, where she was studying psychology. She wanted to understand people. She wanted to help them. At 19, she was on the edge of everything. Long brown hair. A laugh you could hear from across the room. Her friends called her the glue, the one who kept everyone together, who showed up when things got hard. She had a serious boyfriend back in Santa Barbara. They texted constantly. They talked about their future. That future was taken from her on a couch. January 19, 2008. A Saturday night. Brianna and her friends hit a concert, then made their way to the Sands Regency Casino on North Arlington Avenue, a popular late-night spot for the college crowd. Among her group was her close friend, KT Hunter, who lived in an off-campus rental house on May I Court, just blocks from the UNR campus. They stayed out late, dancing, laughing, living exactly the kind of night you're supposed to have at 19. Around 4 in the morning, Brianna decided not to drive back across town to her parents' house. She fell asleep on the couch in the living room. When her friend KT Hunter woke up later that morning, Brianna was gone, and the only trace of her was a blood stain on the pillow where she had been sleeping. Before falling asleep, she texted her boyfriend, "Good night," told him she loved him. Then she settled onto that couch. Gray sweatpants, white tank top, bright neon orange socks, and closed her eyes. She felt safe. She had no reason not to. The back door at 1395 My Court had a glass panel. That night, like most nights, it was unlocked. Not out of recklessness, out of normalcy. This was college life. You came and went. You trusted the people around you. You didn't deadbolt yourself into every room. Biela entered the residence through an unlocked door, pressed a pillow to Brianna's face, and removed her from the house. Multiple people were sleeping inside. No one heard a thing. Not a crash, not a scream, not footsteps. He moved silently, deliberately, like someone who had done this before, because he left behind everything she would have needed to survive a January night in Reno. Temperatures in the 20s, snow on the ground. Her body, when found weeks later, was clad only in the neon orange socks she had fallen asleep in. He carried her out exactly as she was sleeping. At 9 a.m., KT Hunter walked into the living room. The couch was empty. The pillow had a dark stain. All of Brianna's belongings had been left behind. Her cell phone, her purse, her clothes, her shoes. Her whole life was there, KT told investigators. She called 911, and within minutes of Reno police arriving, what began as a missing persons call became something far darker. The blood on the pillow was Brianna's. The DNA swabbed from the back doorknob belonged to an unknown male, and when investigators ran that DNA, they got a hit that stopped every detective in that room cold. This is the part of the story most people don't know. The part that makes what happened to Brianna not just a tragedy, but a warning that arrived too late. October 22, 2007. A UNR student was walking to her car in a campus parking garage, right next to the campus police station. She was attacked from behind, a gun pressed to her head. Her attacker raped her and fled. He took her underwear. He told her not to look at his face. She reported the attack immediately. She described him: white male, strong build, thick meaty fingers, spoke English without an accent. She sat with a sketch artist. That composite would later become one of the most important pieces of evidence in the entire investigation. November 13, 2007. Another UNR student. Another parking lot near campus. Same pattern. Same method. Same trophy. Her underwear taken. DNA collected. December 16, 2007. A 22-year-old foreign exchange student walking near campus. She lost consciousness, and when she woke up, she was inside a vehicle. A $20,052,006 Toyota Tacoma extended cab pickup truck. He raped her, then dropped her off, and warned her not to look at his face. She described the truck in detail. That description would become the second anchor of the investigation. Police had linked all three attacks through DNA evidence and released both a composite sketch and a vehicle description. But they had no name, no suspect. 3 attacks, 3 survivors, 3 women who had come forward, done everything right, and still, he was free. And on January 20, 2008, he graduated. As prosecutors would later argue at trial, Biela graduated from serial rapist to murderer. What followed was one of the largest community search efforts in Nevada history. Brianna's mother, Bridget, got the call from KT that morning and raced to My Court. Blue ribbons appeared on car antennas, mailboxes, and telephone poles across the city. Brianna's color, Brianna's symbol. Vigils were held at Reno High School. Nevada's First Lady, Dawn Gibbons, personally joined the search. A website, Brianna.com, was launched to coordinate tips. America's Most Wanted aired her case on February 2nd. Over 2,000 tips flooded police hotlines. More than 700 men voluntarily gave DNA samples to help clear themselves. None matched. Registered sex offenders were interviewed. Surveillance footage was reviewed. The FBI joined the investigation. Bridget held on to hope the way only a mother can, completely, irrationally, desperately. She said later, "All through the process, I pretty much had hope that we would find her. What else do you do?" On February 15, 2008, 26 days after Brianna vanished, an employee at a nearby business took a shortcut through an empty field during his lunch break. He saw something in a ditch, bright orange fabric, unnatural against the dead vegetation, buried under discarded tree limbs and a discarded Christmas tree, partially covered by snow. He thought it was a mannequin. Then he saw the wound, the teeth. It was Brianna. Her body had been found hidden beneath a discarded Christmas tree in a vacant lot in a southeast Reno business district, approximately 8 miles from my court. She had been sexually assaulted and strangled to death with a pair of panties. Alongside her body were 2 pairs of thong underwear, neither of them hers. One had been used as the murder weapon. The other bore Pink Panther emblems, belonging to an unknown victim. They were trophies, left deliberately. A calling card. The blue ribbons that had symbolized hope now symbolized mourning. Police had a mountain of evidence. DNA from 4 crime scenes, a composite sketch, a truck description, trophies left at the scene. What they didn't have was a name. For 10 months, through the spring, through the summer, through the fall, the case went cold in the public eye, even as investigators worked it quietly around the clock. Then, November 1, 2008, an anonymous call to the secret witness tip line. A woman reported that her friend, the girlfriend of a man named James Biella, had found women's underwear in his truck while traveling back from Washington State in September. 2 pairs of thong panties, not hers. When she confronted him, he claimed he had stolen them from a laundromat. The tipster added more. Biella drove a vehicle matching the December assault description. He had worked construction jobs near the UNR campus. He had left Reno in March 2008, right around the time Brianna's body was found, and the media began widely circulating the sketch and truck description. On his way out of town, he sold his truck in Idaho, clearly attempting to eliminate a key piece of evidence. Detectives moved fast. They interviewed James Michael Biella, 27, of Sparks, Nevada, a pipe fitter, a former Marine trained in martial arts. They asked for a voluntary DNA sample. He refused, but his girlfriend cooperated in a different way. She permitted police to take a DNA sample from their 4-year-old son. Lab results showed the boy's direct biological relative could not be ruled out as the source of the crime scene DNA. That was enough for a warrant. On November 25, 2008, James Michael Biella was arrested as he dropped his son off at the Stepping Stones Children's Center in Reno. A direct DNA sample was taken. Overnight testing confirmed it. He was the match. Every scene, every victim, all of it. Him. So who was James Michael Biella? To the world, quiet, unremarkable, the man next door. In reality, a former U.S. Marine honorably discharged, though his father would later say he was kicked out for drug use. Trained in martial arts, disciplined in hand-to-hand combat, and physically capable of overpowering a person quickly, efficiently, silently. In 2007, he took a construction job on the UNR campus. That job gave him everything: intimate knowledge of the area, daily access to observe student routines, the ability to watch and map without anyone thinking twice about a construction worker walking the grounds. He had a prior arrest. In 2001, he was charged with threatening a former girlfriend's neighbor with a knife. A history of targeted aggression toward women. A warning no one connected until it was too late. He had a compulsion, a ritual. He kept underwear from every victim, not just as trophies, but as instruments of psychological control, a way to relive and maintain dominance after every attack. And he left some of them at Brianna's crime scene, intertwined with her body, a taunt to law enforcement, a signature, a dare. He also had a son, a 4-year-old boy, the same child whose DNA would ultimately unravel him. James Biella's trial began in May 2010, more than 2 years after Brianna's murder. The prosecution presented the DNA evidence. They called Biella's former supervisor, who testified that on the very day Brianna's body was found, February 15, 2008, Biela quit his job, collected his final paycheck, and left for Washington state. When his supervisor asked how he felt about the discovery of her body, Biela reportedly said she probably had it coming and smiled. The two surviving victims took the stand. They identified Biela and described their attacks in painful detail. They looked him in the eye. Biela showed little emotion as the verdict was read. He stood with his hands crossed in front of him, expressionless. After deliberating for about 9 hours, the jury returned a unanimous guilty verdict on all counts: first-degree murder, kidnapping, and sexual assault. Biela's family members burst into tears. Bridget Denison, Brianna's mother, wept in the courtroom. The jury sentenced him to death by lethal injection. On July 30, 2010, Judge Robert Perry sentenced Biela to 4 additional consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole for the attacks on the other women. His appeal was denied most recently in June 2019 by the Nevada Supreme Court. He remains on Nevada's death row. Bridget Denison, leaving that courtroom, looked directly at the cameras and said, "He messed with the wrong family." Bridget Denison did not stop when the verdict came in. She went to Washington. She fought for legislation, and she won. Brianna's law passed in Nevada, mandating a DNA cheek swab whenever a person is booked for a felony arrest. That DNA is cross-referenced with existing crime scene evidence. Since its passage, the law has matched over 1,000 DNA samples to crimes, solving cold cases, identifying serial offenders, and preventing future violence. Her death created a tool that has since saved lives. That is who Brianna Denison was. Even after she was gone, she was still protecting people. January 20th, 2008, should have been just another Sunday morning after a fun Saturday night. A 19-year-old girl on a couch, her shoes on the floor, her phone on the table, a blanket pulled up around her shoulders. She studied psychology because she wanted to understand people, to help them, to make a difference in a world she was just beginning to know. She never got the chance, but her name became a law. Her story became a warning, and the man who thought he could disappear was undone not by a task force, not by a surveillance camera, not by some dramatic breakthrough, but by one woman who saw something wrong in her own home and made one phone call. One call, 10 months of silence broken in a single moment. If you see something, say something. It will always matter more than you think. Brianna Zunino Denison, March 29, 1988, January 20, 2008, 19 years old. She deserved everything. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications. Tell us where you're watching from.